welcome to Bizprac software, and in this tutorial we're going to be talking about the new Definable Layouts tool. So this tool is going to allow you to create your own layout for creditor purchase orders, debtor invoices, as well as job variation authorities. And what you'll find is for premium and ultimate users, under the creditors tab you'll find a button to take you to the custom order layouts where you can set up your own. Under the debtors, there's one there for their respective utility, and the same again for the jobs. So we're going to start off by looking at the debtors layouts. Now when you open the tool, you'll see this navigation up the top here. So there's page setup, which will allow you to define the kind of document you're going to be designing. Under here you'll be able to select new to create new ones, and obviously it'll just come up as a blank file here for you to be able to drag various options onto it. You can save as, obviously, if you want to save an existing one as an alternate. Open for obviously opening previously saved ones. You can also export and import them. So if you've got one database on a central system and you've designed the invoice on there, but you've got a separate database that might use something similar, or rather that you'd like to use a similar kind of designed invoice in, you can just export it and then on the other system just import it through that. And here is the borders tool, and that will allow you to turn on various borders within the document design. And obviously the report variables. So this specifically is what's called a token. If you click on that, yep, it says copy to the clipboard. So if you do something like you put some static text on there, and you right click and go edit, if you paste that in there, that token, when you print it out, this will read from the database whether it's an inclusive or exclusive invoice, and it will change what it represents in order to fit with that. So if you printed it out now for an inclusive invoice, it would say GST inclusive instead of just percentage include underscore exclude percentage. And that's just basically how tokens work. Okay, so cancel that, and I'll just pull that off because we don't want that. So anytime you want to remove anything from the layout, you can just click on it and grab it and pull it off, and that just removes it from it. So when you first start, you're not going to have any layouts in your file, but what will happen is this will appear and it'll ask you if you'd like to download some factory default ones we've got for you. So if you just say yes, and 9 reports will download and they'll populate in here. So you've got three different variants of the 3 different designs. So there's the itemized list, the professional, and the service industry. If at some stage you've deleted a few of them and you might want to re-download them, you can just click the download option here and that will re-download them. When you open up any of these, you can obviously change them. You can save them as whatever you like. You can't save them over themselves. So if you've opened up a service industry one and you've made some modifications, you can't save it over itself. You need to save it as an alternate file. So you can call it service industry 2 or just whatever you like. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the itemized list. And as you can see, this basically just comes out exactly the same way as the in-program non-definable reports do. But we're going to modify it because obviously we don't want to just do the same thing over again. So maybe what we'll do is we'll move this over to the side. Going to move this down a bit. bring down the address, bring that down, bring these down, and you'll notice that when you move the objects around, so these are just called objects, they'll actually snap to positions, and it also shows you where, in terms of the rulers and the guidelines, where you're positioning everything, so that way you can make sure everything lines up the way you want it to. I'm just going to move these things around a little bit indelicately, so I'm not really fussed right now. I just want to get a rough look at what I'm trying to achieve. And as you'll see, as you move things around, it'll even give you the coordinates on the page of where you've put it. And I'm going to move my logo lid head down there. So with anything, basically, if you wanted to put some borders on it or something like that, you just select the object by clicking on it, in this case the debtor address, and go right click, go edit. You can style the text, obviously you can choose from the formats you've got installed on your system. You can fill the background color of the box, you can change the color of the font, you can bold it, italic, you can even change the alignments. I'm not going to fiddle with any of that just yet. And if we right click and go borders, so basically you just click on the edges of whatever you want. So you say the top border, the left, the right, and the bottom. Then that'll put a border around it when you print it out. So what we're going to do also is in here, I don't want my client to see what the unit price is, so I'm just going to grab that column and just pull the whole thing out. And as you can see, the columns in the actual body of the invoice move around to accommodate it. I'll just move this out here so I can push those over there. There we go, and that lines up over there. Okay, so in order to be able to obviously print out a debtor invoice or anything like that, there's a few things you'll need to put on them. A few of the objects you will definitely need are things like the invoice number, debtor address, so that when they get it, they will see who it is. The debtor address obviously includes the debtor's name, as well as whatever address settings you have set for the debtor. So if it's postal address set for the debtor, that's what comes into the field. It's all dynamic. Down here in the totals, obviously you've got the GST and the invoice total. The invoice total will be whatever you've got it set as. So it might not necessarily be GST inclusive, it might be exclusive. That's just the label we've got. So another thing you'll also need is you will need at least a description column and an amount column. You will need at least those two. The reason for that is because obviously you can't bill someone or you can't order something unless you're saying what it is, even if it's just vague, but you need to at least say what it is and how much it is, or even if you don't want the amounts to appear as itemized, you can just put in a lump sum for whatever you've got in the actual invoice itself. With the invoice header, this control here, what it does is, this is just a placeholder. It will actually take on the size and dimensions of whichever logo letterhead you've got set up. So although it might seem small now, if you've got a logo or letterhead that's been set to something like 50 millimeters large in terms of height, that it will expand out to be that large as you print it. So what I'll do is I'll just save this, and obviously can't save it as a factory default, so we're going to use the save as option, and I'm going to call it itemized list custom, and it's saved it. Then we're going to close that, and we're going to come into the invoices, and when you have any definable layouts, you'll find them under here. So you can print definable reports, email, or email directly, obviously. And then under here, we'll just find the one that I've done, and we'll print that out. And this is what we get. So as you can see, it's removed the unit price from the actual invoice, but I'm not happy with where that is, so I'll just go back in and change that. And you can just do this however many times you want. There's no defined number of times you can only adjust something. You can just keep fiddling with it until it's right for you. So we put that down there, and I'm going to put some borders on the columns. So I've just gone and selected the description column, and I've right clicked and selected borders, and now I'm just going to click on the left and right sides, so that when it prints out, the column will have vertical borders. And the same for product name. I'll do the same for the quantity and the amount. And GST. Okay. When you look at it, you'll see that there are a bunch of different controls you can put on here. Obviously tax type is one of the most important, because you will need to state that. You can put any contract information relating to, if you're doing a invoice for a job, you can put contract information on there, like original contract. That control will print the value of the actual original contract. Variations will do the same for the variations value. And revised contract is the total, obviously, of the two. Invoice to date. So all of these here, they do exactly what they say they do. This control will give you the original contract. It's not a label. It's just going to give you the dynamic information relating to that. If you want to create a label, you'll just pull in a static text control. Basically, that is, it's text that won't change. You can just put it wherever you want. And obviously, I've dropped that under that. So we'll just move that down so we can pull that out and move it over here. And I'll just grab the header again and move it back up. So if you just go right click and edit, you can put in your static text. And when you print it out, it'll tell you what's going on. So we're just going to say What should we put? Let's say this claim is made, and that's basically what you'll see in the control. So obviously, if you expand it out, you'll see more of the text, and you just need to resize it to accommodate what you've put into it. You can even change the font size on the dynamic controls, so debtor address. If you want to make that larger, you can. So we'll say something like that, we'll say bold. That's going to be enormous, but it'll be interesting anyway. So we'll just come up here, we'll save it again. And I've already saved it as a separate file, so I don't need to do it again. I can just click save straight away. And we'll have another look at that. Okay, so that's looking a little better in terms of what I'm trying to do. Okay, and because I've put borders on all of the columns, some of them have overlapped. So I'm just going to go back in there and adjust that. So all I really need is just one border on each side. So I'm just going to keep the right border of all of the columns and turn the left one off. I'll save that. Okay. If you want to move around your logo letterhead, maybe it's a bit flush up the top, just go to send to and then select little letterhead setup, and this is the one we're using. So I'm just going to put a space there, and I'm just going to shrink down the line so it's not too large. I'll just go save. There we go, and it's moved it down a little bit. There we go. And obviously, as you can see, the dynamic control here, it's put the border on it that I've turned on, and it's also styled the text that the way that I'd wanted it to. Yeah, and adjusting the borders on these columns here has cleared up that overlapping. So what we'll do now is we'll come back in. Maybe I want to get rid of this one. Just pull it off, and that'll move over. And I'll move the description field up. That's a bit too far. There we go. That's basically where I want it. A little bit more. Yep. There we go. Right, so when you're looking at the document here, it's got certain areas where you'll generally need to put specific things. So this top part here, where you can see the green highlighted on the side, that indicates that section, that vertical section, relates to the document header. So that's where you'll put things like the debtor name, your letterhead, invoice number, that sort of thing. And down here in this red section, this is the page header. So it's not the same as the document start. The document start is the beginning of what it's printing. The page header is it's basically where you're going to have the it's going to be the column headers for the invoice and anything like the tax type, that sort of stuff. You can put additional information in there if you like, but that's primarily what it's for. So just for example, we'll pull the date column into it, and the way that and the way that works is that you can just drop it in wherever you need it. So I'm going to put it over this side. And I'll shrink that down to bring the GST column back on.